Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is The Account with another daily news update for day 286 of the Ukraine war. Before we start with the main flashpoints, I want to congratulate the Ukrainian soldiers on their holiday. Today, Ukraine celebrates the Day of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. President Zelensky visited soldiers near Sloviansk, thanking them for their steadfastness and strength. He said, "Dear servicemen and veterans, I sincerely greet you on this great holiday, on this great day, the Day of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. This is the year of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. It is time for the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Everyone knows who the defenders of Ukraine are. Someone gave itself the title of the second army in the world. However, everyone can see who is the first. Everyone sees your power, hardening, skills, and standards, as well as the standards of Ukraine." Meanwhile, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Valery Zaluzny, said he believes in the Ukrainian army and in the ultimate victory. "Dear soldiers, sergeants, and officers, employees and veterans of the armed forces, I am proud to serve my country side by side with you, proud to be your commander-in-chief in this difficult time. I believe in each of you and in our victory. I wish a speedy recovery to the wounded soldiers. I wish all those who are in the ranks strength and resilience, inspiration and joy, victorious peace." And now for the main flashpoints along the front. Bakhmut. Heavy fights continue on the eastern outskirts and southern approaches of the city. Ukrainian artillery reinforcements inflict heavy damage on Russian positions outside the city. Bilohorivka. Reports of Russia launching another major assault. Fierce fighting was reportedly ongoing throughout the day. Claims of massive losses on Russian side. Kremina. Russian sources reported a small settlement has fallen to Ukrainian forces. Further information suggests the town in question is Kusmina. North of Kremina, war guns were reported of heavy fighting around Chervonopopivka and Zitlivka for control of the P-66 highway. Pavlivka. The Russian offensive has stalled. Russian forces had to retreat to the southern outskirts of Pavlivka due to Ukrainian pinpoint strikes. And now for the main news of the day. A high-ranking Ukraine official was cited, claiming the drones used in yesterday's attack on Russian airfields were launched from Ukraine and directed by gunners positioned near the bases. The drones were launched from the territory of Ukraine, and at least one of the strikes was carried out with the help of special forces near the base, who helped guide the drones to the target, the New York Times quoted the official as saying. It is also claimed that one of the causes for the explosion is a clandestine project called the Black Box by Ukrainian Defense Intelligence and the Come Back Alive Foundation. Meanwhile, satellite images were published showing several fire trucks and what appears to be foam near one Tu-95 strategic bomber, suggesting it was on fire. Early this morning, a fire at an airfield in the Russian city of Kursk was reported. Allegedly, an oil storage tank caught fire as a result of another drone attack. The fire continued to burn for several hours. Another drone attack happened on a classified factory about 80 kilometers from the border in Bryansk Oblast. Russian Telegram channel Baza claimed no damage was inflicted as the drones missed the fuel tanks, which were reportedly empty anyways. However, a video shared on social media shows a rather large fire. After the attacks on airfields, Dmitry Peskov, press secretary of the President of the Russian Federation, announced the strengthening of protection for important infrastructure. At the same time, Russian news claimed the drones used by Ukraine were intercepted by Russian air defense. However, 3 Russian soldiers were killed and 4 more were injured. Igor Girgin has returned to Moscow. A Russian terrorist and former so-called Minister of Defense of the DPR, Girgin volunteered to go and fight in Ukraine. In October, he arrived on the territories of the temporarily occupied Donetsk and Luhansk Oblasts, and after signing a voluntary conscription request was assigned a unit. However, at the end of November, he found out that he was not holding any post in his battalion and left afterwards. Conflict Armament Research, a weapons research group, reports that Russia is using missiles manufactured this autumn to attack Ukraine. This is based on the examination of missile fragments of a Kh-101 cruise missile found in Kyiv after an attack on November 23rd. Based on the results, the missile was manufactured after September. Kirilo Budanov, chief of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, pointed out the changing rhetoric of Russian propagandists. According to him, Russia's defeat is a foregone conclusion. First, they started to cautiously criticize their leadership, then the top generals. And now they have reached the point where victory is out of the question. They are thinking about how just not to lose. But everyone understands that this is impossible. Their defeat is already obvious. Russian forces massively shelled the Kherson region with artillery and multiple rocket launchers, targeting especially residential areas and infrastructure. Police responded to 350 reports from citizens about criminal offenses and other events. 43 criminal proceedings regarding war crimes committed by the Russian army were opened. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said the US is helping Ukraine regain all territories occupied by Russia since February 24, 2022. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian authorities emphasized they intend to deoccupy all territories and restore the internationally recognized borders of 1991. Doug Bush, the Assistant Secretary of the US Army for Acquisition, reported about the US Army's objective to dramatically increase ammunition production over the next 3 years. So far, the US has supplied Ukraine with over 1,155mm artillery shells, which is putting a strain on stockpiles. He also noted that it is unclear what Ukraine needs will be in the future, and the US Army wants to be ready. And finally, I want to point out an interesting article by Ukrinform. It is titled 10 Breakthroughs of the Ukrainian Armed Forces That Surprised the World. Experts with Ukraine's Center for Army, Conversion and Disarmament Studies have compiled their rating of the achievements of the Ukrainian Armed Forces during the war. If you're interested, I recommend checking it out. Moving on to the UK Ministry of Defence Intelligence Update. On December 5, 2022, multiple open sources reported explosions at Engels Air Base in Russia's Saratov Oblast and at Diaghilevo airfield near Ryazan, southeast of Moscow. 2 Tu-95 Bear heavy bombers were reportedly damaged at Engels, and 3 people were killed when a fuel tank exploded at Diaghilevo. The causes of the explosions have not been confirmed. However, if Russia assesses the incidents were deliberate attacks, it will probably consider them as some of the most strategically significant failures of force protection since its invasion of Ukraine. The sites are much deeper inside Russia than previous similar explosions. Engels is over 600 kilometers from Ukrainian-controlled territory. Engels is the main operating base of Russia's long-range aviation, LRA, within Western Russia and is home to more than 30 heavy bombers. These aircraft contribute to Russia's nuclear deterrent and have also frequently been used to launch conventional cruise missiles at Ukraine. The LRA is likely to respond by temporarily moving bombers to dispersal airfields. The Russian chain of command will probably seek to identify and impose severe sanctions on Russian officers deemed responsible for allowing the incident. And finally, the evening report by the General Staff of Ukraine. In the Kupiansk direction, the enemy is conducting defensive operation on captured lines. In the Bakhmut and Avdiivka directions, the enemy is concentrating its main efforts on conducting offensive operations. The enemy suffered losses. So on December 4th, in the Zaporizhia region, as a result of fire, up to 20 units of enemy military equipment of various types were destroyed and about 70 occupiers were injured. On November 30th, in the Verkhnyo-Toretsky district of the Donetsk Oblast, the fact of the desertion of servicemen of the Russian occupation forces with weapons from their combat positions was discovered. Among them, 13 out of 21 are persons recruited from prisons. The command of the Russian occupation forces ordered the arrest and liquidation of violators. As of December 5th, all deserters have been eliminated. And that wraps up today's report. If you're interested in reading up on topics in more detail, I included links to their articles in the description. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day. You were listening to The Account. Slava Ukraini.